And after she died, her followers, she had many followers because she was very. It was a period in our history when prophets were the sort of celebrities of the day, and she was a great celebrity. She had hundreds of thousands of followers, and so when she died, people really campaigned for the box to be opened. But the bishops, there were only 24 bishops in this country at the time, and they all said no, bugger off, we're busy, we don't believe in it. And so 150 years passed, and then a group of women in Bedford in the early part of the 20th century who wanted to kind of redress the balance of gender within Christianity, because they saw it as an entirely male construct with no real central female characters, wanted to play with some of the stories within the Bible that Jesus had a sister, and that Joanna Southcott may have been a reincarnation of Jesus' sister, and also possibly one of the members of this growing group in Bedford might have been the same. And they managed to get hold of the box, and they began to advertise around the UK. It must have been so bizarre for these adverts to have appeared from the 1930s until the 1980s.
And you've got a photograph of one of these billboards, and there they are, with all the usual things, advertising cat food and Dunlop tyres and God knows what else from that period. But there is the advert for this.
And it says, crime and banditry, distress, perplexity will increase until the bishops open Joanna Southcott's box. And you could see these adverts would appear in the Daily Express. How baffling. Imagine in the 80s, reading this advert thinking, what's that about? And so they were campaigning to try and get 24 of our bishops to come and do as Joanna Southcott had asked, and let the flipping thing be open, but none ever did. And finally, this group, the Panacea Society, the last two members of the group died in 2012, and now their buildings and grounds are now run by a trust, and the box is said to be kept in a safe place and remains unopened until the required number of bishops are brought there.
Well, I've just had a text in from a tweet writer from Jason, who says that he's living in Bedford, just a few minutes walk from where he lives. This is supposed to be. It's astonishing then, if the thing still exists and it's being protected and guarded, in this day and age, why hasn't somebody tried to do something with it?
Well, I went to visit the Panacea Society as part of the research for the book, and some of the trust members said it was one of the things that we agreed to do when we took over, even though we don't necessarily believe in what the Panacea Society believed in. We promised that we would not let the box be opened unless those conditions were correct, and they won't even say where the box is actually kept, because if you visit, and it's worth visiting the Panacea Society in Bedford, there's a fake box laid out in one of the rooms with 24 empty chairs around it, as the Panaceans had set up back in the earlier in fact, waiting for the bishops. And also they also believed that Jesus was going to come back, and he was going to come to Bedford because that's where the Garden of Eden was. And so they set up one of their houses for Jesus, and they had tenants in the house, but there was a clause in the tenants agreement which was, if you're given notice, it'll be 2 months, unless Jesus happens to show up, and then you have to scarper. You've got 24 hours.
There are some people taking this very seriously.
Oh,
this is astonishing. How have I never heard of this before?
I don't know. Well, the trust took over just a few years ago. So, I mean, they've really made something of the building. I think that by the 50s, this group were in the hundreds, and a lot of money was sent to this organisation, so that I think they own 17 big properties in Bedford, and so the trust have done a great job with at least 4 of these. That they're not only do they show you the history of this group, but the history of other unusual kind of Christian cults from around the world, particularly America. And the Garden of Eden is beautiful. You can go visit the Garden of Eden. It's got a tea room, and they do a really nice tea and scones, so you can sit outside and marvel at the garden whilst slurping on a cup of tea. It's a great day out.
But are there stipulations on the kind of bishops that you need? In other words, do they have to be Church of England? Couldn't you get them from some far-flung part of the world where perhaps thinking is different on these things?
I was having a discussion with someone about this the other day, and they said, would it work if you got 24 people whose surname was Bishop?
I think that's probably stretching things a little too far.
I think it would. I suspect that it was probably it probably would have been stipulated that it had to be they had to be British.
Okay, and one of my scientific friends, Hedy, has just tweeted to say, X-ray the box.
Yes, we spoke to the Trust about this as well, and they said that why didn't they do it? They thought that would be breaking the rules of agreement. Now there is a story. If you Google it, you will find an X-ray, a supposed X-ray of the box that was done by Harry Price in 1915 or 1917, I think it was.
Veteran British paranormal investigator.
Right, and he claimed that he had got hold of Joanna Southcott's box, and he had X-rayed it, and the X-ray shows booby traps, a gun, some letters, some other strange objects in there, and it is highly unlikely that he had the original box. It was a gimmick because he was quite a publicist and self-publicist, and he just had made up this story to get his name in the paper. But it was a good story.
What an astonishing story, and it's there to be read in the Mysterium. I've got the man behind the Mysterium, David Bramwell, online to us here at Talk Radio. Hold on for just a second, would you, David, because we're going to have to take some commercials here. We'll come straight back and deal with some more of the weirdness in this book, which is available for you to buy, should you so desire, at Christmas. But it's called The Mysterium, and the subtitle I love is Unexplained and Extraordinary Stories. You just heard one for a post-Nessie generation. More from David Bramwell and about the book and the strange stories in it. Coming next here on The Unexplained at Talk Radio with me, Howard Hughes.
Across the UK, online and on DAB. Access all radios.
Talk Radio. Give it some lip. Is a day of festive indulgence keeping you awake at night with heartburn and indigestion? Get dual relief with Gaviscon Double Action. It gets to work instantly and lasts up to twice as long as antacids. This Christmas, try Gaviscon Double Action. Always read the label.
You can say anything to a mate. Anything. Call them every name under the sun. Wind them up. Bring them down a peg. Tell them stuff you never thought you'd tell anyone. 'Cause they're proper mates. Like brothers. When it's a mate, you say what you feel like saying. Except, I love you, man. And I'm not gonna let you drink drive. Stupid, innit? Mates don't let mates drink drive. Think.
You are currently on the naughty list. Know why? Because you've lost your Christmas spirit. But with every delicious bite of Subway's new deluxe feast, the festive season becomes that little bit better. Until you're transformed into a prancing, dancing, tinsel-infused elf. That's the magic of butter, marinated turkey breast, crispy bacon and cranberry sauce. That's the magic of Subway. Subway. Keep discovering. Terms and conditions apply. Participation may vary. See in-store for details.
What's changed in the brand new second series of the Grand Tour?
My trousers.
Not really the answer I was looking for.
Not wrong, though, is it?
Did you wear those trousers in the last series?
Actually, I did.
There we are then, the second series of the Grand Tour featuring Richard Hammond in some repetitive trousers.
Let's do this properly.
Oh my God!
That's nice.
I might buy a new pair.
I think you should.
The Grand Tour Season 2. Stream now on Amazon Prime Video. New episode every Friday.
This year, will the fairy lights actually work first time? Will the Christmas tree hold its needles until, Christmas? Will the big day pass off without a big row? Will the roast potatoes be done at the same time as the turkey for once? This Christmas, you've got enough on your plate. But at least with a fixed price plan from TalkTalk, you don't need to worry about your bills going up. Our TV and fast broadband bundle is now just $27.50 a month, including line rental for the entire 18-month plan. Because peace of mind, it matters. TalkTalk. For everyone. TV box at £25. Terms and conditions apply.
The Unexplained with Howard Hughes on Talk Radio.
David Bramwell's here, together with Joe Keeling. They put together The Mysterium, a book of weird stories. Jenny in Milton Keynes, not that far from Bedford. Jenny, not impressed by the story, David, of Joanna Southcott and the box in Bedford. Says a charlatan playing on superstition, rather like the Pharaoh's curse, the oracle at Delphi and Nostradamus' prophecies, says Jenny, are interpreted by the ears of the listener. So I would guess the box in Bedford and the key to eternal peace, it's something that's always been controversial down the years.
Well, indeed. But let's not forget that that this story winds all the way back to the 1780s, 1790s. So I think we have a different perspective on prophecies now. Joanna Southcott did, at the age of 64, announce that she was pregnant, and this was
64.
At 64, this was the news story of the year. This was a big story.
Well, I mean, these things happen these days, but not then.
Well, 64 is still pretty old to be pregnant. I think that may still be a world record. So even some of her closest supporters did express doubt of this, and sure enough, after 9 months, no child materialised. Although sadly she died shortly afterwards. So that really did mar her reputation. She did become something of a laughing stock.
And cause her credibility to be questioned somewhat, I would have thought. Okay, are you happy to be with us for a few minutes beyond our 11 o'clock news here?
Yeah, of course.
Great stuff. Okay, well, let's talk about something that was part of my youth, and which is in the book here. I'm really pleased you did this, because it's so hard to get people to talk about this. Those of us who had shortwave radios when we were kids, and that's any time up to the 90s, people had shortwave radios, which would deliver to you in an era before you could listen to radio stations from around the world streaming, which you can do these days.
Yeah.
To listen to America or wherever, we had to use shortwave. And in between the main stations on shortwave, you would find these weird numbers stations.
Yeah.
One of them, very, very loud, I would listen to on cold winter nights in Liverpool, and it would be a woman's voice, presumably from the east of Germany, just reciting numbers. It was always 9, 7, 8.
Yeah.
It was just a set of numbers. I think these stations ran 24/7. And people used to say, well, of course, that's all to do with spying. What were they?
We still don't know. We still do not know. It seems most likely that it was one-way spy code. So if a spy, it certainly makes sense that if a spy was in a country, in a foreign place, and they needed to be sent information that was untraceable, so that nothing on their person would give them away, or no strange equipment. Having a radio was perfectly normal. So to tune into those, to be able to decode those numbers, and then immediately destroy the written evidence, meant that you were clean. The curious thing is that these number stations have been broadcast from around the world and continue to be broadcast around the world.
Do they?
And they do. And where they were first noted in the late 40s, early 50s, and no one has ever come forward and admitted that that's what they are. And so there are two questions. First of all, the first one is, that's a little odd that no one has confessed after all this time. And secondly, if they are spy codes, then how did all of the different countries come to use the same pattern? That's because that we can still detect these number stations coming from Russia, coming from America, coming from Britain, coming from Greece, coming from Eastern European countries. How did they all get together and agree that they were going to use this same code? So there are many questions that still...
Do we know that it was the same code?
Well,
exactly the same sets of numbers, used in the same way?
I think most of them do strings of 6 numbers at a time, and most of them do broadcast for a 1-hour period. So they all start with a motif that might be a little piece of music. So the British one is the Lincolnshire Poacher, which is an old folk tune. Some of them use what sound like distorted gongs, or some of them, the German one, might just start with the voice that says Achtung, and then the number strings run for an hour. So there is a uniformity to most of them in the way that they're presented, which is curious.
Absolutely, and it's something that I grew up with. Jumble Sailor, one of our tweeters here, says the Swedish Rhapsody number station is very spooky. I mean, look, I grew up with this, and I never knew what it was. You still don't know what it was.
We don't know. Well, and also, of course, they've migrated to Twitter. So there are equivalent number chains which are being transmitted by bizarre accounts on Twitter, where, you know, the Twitter account might just be a jumble of letters that don't mean anything. And every hour on the hour, strings of numbers are being transmitted by these unknown Twitter accounts. So it's migrating around to different media. YouTube as well was accused of transmitting strange number codes or sound codes. And then they came forward in 2014 because millions of these things existed on YouTube. Nobody could work out what they were, and they were short and abstract shapes and abstract sounds were being broadcast. And then YouTube said, "Oh, actually, what they're testing. They're little test signals that we run before we upload videos."
Boy, but it all adds to the mystery. David Bramwell from the Mysterium, hold those thoughts, because we're going to do a couple more of these weird stories. Then in the next hour, we're going to talk about space. If you have a question to do with space, anything in it or around it, the expert is here, our friend Dr. Nick Lister, who helped us launch this show 18 months ago now. He'll be here taking your questions in the next hour. But coming straight up after the news, more mysteries from the Mysterium. Stay here.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
A new kind of talk radio. We'll get you talking.
Could your business benefit from cloud accounting? Sage Business Cloud. Get paid faster by issuing invoices on the move. Complete your VAT return in seconds and link your bank account for a real-time picture of your business finances. See how Sage Business Cloud can benefit your business with a free 30-day trial of Sage Accounting. Visit sage.co.uk/free trial. Sage Business Cloud, helping you manage everything from money to people. Be Sage. Build on.
We don't know you. We don't know how far you can swim, how high you can climb, or how quickly you can put together a rifle. We don't know how fast you can run, how well you can drive, or if you can think on your feet. We don't know how strong you are, how confident you are, or what you're capable of. But then, neither do you. Yet, the Army is recruiting now. Together, we'll help you find where you belong. Search Army Jobs.
Cara, joining video conference. Hi, Cara. Wow, check out your tan.
Thanks. I just got back from Greece.
Oh, nice. So, tell me, do we have 50 of this dress?
App says yes, but I'll double check. Yeah, I'll send you some pics.
Fab.
Want to do more in less time? Unified Communications joins up your landlines, mobiles, desktops, laptops and tablets to improve productivity. The future is exciting. Ready? Search Vodafone Business. Terms and conditions apply.
We got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the trade goes.
The festive season has started at Selco Builders Warehouse, and we're celebrating with Selco's 12 deals of Christmas. Like a slim fix 6-piece electric screwdriver set for just $19.99, or a Unilight LED compact headlight for only $7.99. Now that's a Christmas cracker. Don't miss Selco's 12 deals of Christmas. Only available until the 15th of December. Prices exclude VAT. Find out more at selcobw.com.
We got it at Selco. Selco, it's where the trade goes.
At John Lewis, we'll help you find the perfect gift this Christmas. Our expert partners are always on hand with thoughtful tips and advice, whether you're searching for that special gift or just a little stocking filler. Plus, until Sunday, you can earn double points when you spend on your partnership card, so thoughtful gifts for them can mean a well-deserved treat for you. Terms and conditions apply. Partnership card representative 18.9% APR variable. Credit subject to status. You must be over 18 to apply. John Lewis Financial Services Limited. Points convert to vouchers. Minimum spend applies.
Across the UK, online and on DAB.
A new kind of talk radio. We'll get you talking. Talk Radio.
From the Sky News Centre at 11. Temperatures across the UK are falling tonight after a day of heavy snow for many areas. The snow is expected to continue in the Midlands, Wales and Scotland. Elsewhere, drivers had to put up with heavy rain and gale-force winds. Frank Bird from Highways England in the West Midlands says the freezing temperatures tonight could cause more problems.
We're expecting temperatures widely to drop between -7 and -9, and that's particularly challenging, especially on roads that haven't been treated or footpaths, your local drives and whatever. They are going to become extremely slippery, so really take extra care.
There's renewed hope that the jailed British mother Nazanin Zaghari Ratcliffe could soon be freed from an Iranian prison. An expected court appearance was postponed following talks in Tehran between the Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson and the Iranian president. Max Clifford has died after collapsing in prison. He was 74. Clifford was jailed for 8 years in May 2014 after being convicted of a number of charges under Operation U-Tree. Tributes have been paid to 2 teenagers who died after taking drugs in a nightclub. Aaron Riley and Joshua Brooke, both 19, were found unconscious at a nightclub in Plymouth after taking what they thought was MDMA. In sport, Manchester City are 11 points clear at the top of the Premier League after winning 2-1 at rivals Manchester United. Jose Mourinho was unhappy with a late decision to book Ander Herrera for diving rather than award the home side a penalty. City boss Pep Guardiola's not convinced.
We won because we were bad. In all departments, we were bad. I don't know the plan for my opponent, but we came here to play to try to win the game. I said in the press conference, and we did it the same like at Stamford Bridge. And here again into bigger stages.
And Made in Chelsea star Georgia Tofolo is the winner of I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. The reality TV star was visibly shocked as presenters Anton Deck announced she'd won. That's the latest. I'm Bessie Gray.
The following program contains graphic audio images of the supernatural and scenarios depicting paranormal activity that some listeners may find disturbing. Views expressed in the program are solely those of the presenter and do not in any way reflect the opinions, beliefs, or policies of Talk Radio.
Untwist the lid on Talk Radio's specimen jar of the psychic, the supernatural, and the simply unexplainable. The Unexplained with Howard Hughes on Talk Radio.
Simon in Yorkshire, thanks very much for your text. I think I need to know a little bit more detail about what you're telling me about here. But you say that you have been to a place that we talked about on this show about 6 weeks or so ago with Paul Sinclair, the author of the book Truth Proof about strange happenings and years on then, around RAF Benton on the northeast Yorkshire coast, off the Yorkshire coast basically. You say that you saw a brief flash in the sky and everything turned a brilliant white. Tell me more about this, because I'm keen to know, Simon, but thank you for getting in touch. Could this be more strangeness? And if there is more to it, I'll put you in touch with Paul Sinclair. Let me know. And if you've got a picture of the phenomenon that you have told me about in this text, wouldn't mind seeing that too. All right, we're talking about the Mysterium. David Bramwell, Joe Keeling have put together this very strange book. That would actually make a nice present at Christmas, I think, and I don't have an interest in it at all, and I'm not promoting it. Oh, by the way, we've got Nick Lister coming soon in this hour, taking your space questions if you have ready. I've got a stack of them to put to him, but if you would like to get involved, always pleased to hear from you. The Mysterium. David, some great stories in here. We talked about those number stations from the Cold War. You also mentioned to me when we had a little conversation before we did this about strange transmissions from space.
Well, I probably have some questions for your space expert, actually, because this was these are quite short stories that I researched for the book, but I'm certainly no expert on transmissions from space. But I think the story that the most intrigued me, there was a story from 1977 about the WOW signal, which I think has been quite well documented that a volunteer astronomer called Jerry Ehman, E-H-M-A-N, measured this strange wave form from space that didn't seem to match with the frequencies that he was measuring. It was essentially it was a signal that didn't make any sense and might have suggested it was an attempted communication.
Well, the world started to think that it might have been some kind of embryonic contact.
Yes, it only lasted for 72 seconds, and it's never been repeated since. So this has been the subject of much discussion for many decades. But the one that intrigues me, which has been titled the WTF star, the WTF apparently standing for Where's the Flux, rather than other associations that might.
I can't tell you how relieved I am about that.
But this is This is a star which is 1,500 light years from Earth that has been flickering and fluctuating in a highly irregular way, according to my research at least, suggesting that, or one of the many suggestions that could be happening with this star is that it could be being mined for its energy. And the erratic nature of this star and the measurements of the decreasing power and energy of the star, which has been significant over a short period of time that we've been measuring and observing it, is different to any other star that we have observed in the night sky. Although your expert may have other things to say about
this. Is this Tabby's star you're talking about?
Is it what, sorry?
Tabby's star, the one they call Tabby's star?
No, I don't remember it being called Tabby's star.
All right, but a strange star that is dimming and brightening in a way that it shouldn't ought to.
Oh, well, in that case, yes, but I hadn't come across it being called... Tabby's. Yes, that was another alternative name for it, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. That's the one. And there's a Soviet astronomer called Nikolai Kardashev, and he had this scale for different types of civilizations. And type 1 civilization is one like our own, where we can harness energy from the sun and store it here. But a type 2 is one that can harness all the energy from its parent sun. And that's what... that was one of the ideas, that this was a type 2 civilization is out there, and it's able to actually draw directly the power and energy from this star, from Tabby's star, as you call it. So yes, and that's as far as my investigations have gone with this story. But it's interesting because one of the things I think I wanted to include in the book were new ways of looking at possible evidence of alien life forms, and that was one which had caused great excitement, I think, when it was first discovered. So we like these stories because there's a degree of scientific rigour behind them.
What about the hum? Now, there are people in various parts of the world, including this country, who over the years, and especially recently, have claimed to have heard some kind of low-frequency noise. Not generated by anything in their homes or anything like that, just a kind of ground-based energy.
Well, this has been reported again for decades, and the big story that broke in the UK came in the 70s from Bristol, and it became known, unsurprisingly, as the Bristol hum. And thousands of people in the city had started reporting that they could hear what sounded like the low engine of a diesel lorry ticking over, and they were trying to locate it. And people thought things like wind farms have been blamed, and factories, and motorways, and other things have been. People have presumed that this is where this noise is coming from. But the reporting of it has grown and grown over the decades, and no one has been able to find the source of this mysterious sound. But the number of people complaining about it has grown, so that the inhabitants of a town called Taos, I think it is, in New Mexico, 2% of the entire population have reported hearing the hum, and it drives people to distraction. People have talked about getting migraines. I've read reports of rattling teeth, and people being driven almost to the brink of despair because they can't sleep at night.
Could it be something to do with whatever is going on, the bubbling cauldron that is the Earth's core?
That's been one of the theories. There's been theories of seismic plates moving in our oceans causing this. There was even a wild theory that it's farting fish. The great shoals of fish.
I'm sure we can't rule that out.
Well, we kind of can really, because some of the places where the hum has been reported are like 1,000 miles away from the coast. So it seems highly unlikely. One of the theories, actually two theories which are both disturbing, is that the hum started to be reported shortly after the invention of the Sony Walkman. So whether or not we are creating a new form of tinnitus that was previously unknown, because all tinnitus, my understanding is that all tinnitus is of a high frequency or scratchy nature.
I have tinnitus, and I have had for some years, unfortunately, and mine is the very high frequency type. But I do know, because I've been to various hospitals about there are going to be people listening to this who also have it. It's a very common thing. But there are people who do hear low sounds as well, as far as I'm aware.
Right. Okay. Well, I didn't realise that. But again, our researches into the hum seem to suggest that it was unlikely that it was simply a form of tinnitus because people were, particularly in the Bristol area, people were saying, well, I only hear it between the hours of 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. or I only hear it if my windows are open.
And of course, if they can pinpoint the direction where it's coming from, then it's not, tinnitus is in your head.
Yes. And yes, the reports are way too varied for it to be simply tinnitus. So it is mysterious.
Could it be? And has it been suggested that this hum might be caused by submarines have to be communicated with, and the way that they do that is with very low frequency, incredibly low frequency, which is almost frequency that you can feel, because how do you get a signal to a submarine that's under the ocean or under the ice somewhere? Well, that's the only way to do it.
Well, yes, that has also been one of the theories put forward. I mean, it's interesting that how many have been associated with our oceans. But again, coming to some of the places where the hum has been reported by significant numbers of people, where they are so far from the shoreline, from the coast, that it just seems unlikely that if somebody say 100 miles, 200 miles inland is reporting the hum, well then why aren't the people on the coast hearing it if it is indeed coming from submarines? It is a genuine mystery, this one, and it's very hard for low frequency sounds to be located. It's much more difficult than high frequencies.
Very low frequency sounds appear to be coming from, well, they're almost non-directional. That is why where people buy subwoofers for their hi-fi, or there's an old phrase, hi-fi, or television, whatever. If you buy a subwoofer, then you only buy one, and you can locate it anywhere in your room.
Yeah.
And you have the high frequency and mid frequency speakers left and right to do stereo. With the low frequencies, because they're not directional particularly, you can shove your subwoofer anyway. You can put it behind you, you can put it behind the sofa or whatever. But that's another subject. Very finally, we've only got 2 minutes to do this, and I don't know if you can summarise this. But there is the captivating title in one section of the book, I think towards the back of it, The Men Who Scared Themselves to Death.
Crikey, that is an extraordinary story. I can't do it justice in 2 minutes. These were a group of men from the Southeast Asian country of Laos, who were relocated to America in 1980, and they were perfectly healthy men, and they began dying in their tens and then in their hundreds, and nobody could work out how this was happening, and they were dying in their sleep. And after a 25-year report, or investigation into it by some doctors and researchers, they came to the conclusion these men had scared themselves to death because they came from a shamanic culture that believed very strongly in the power of the night hag, in the power of night terrors, which every country reports. Every country has its mythology around, particularly around a malevolent female crone or creature coming to us at night and sitting
like
in our chair.
The banshee in Ireland, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Every culture has it, but these men believed very strongly in this, and they needed a shaman to exorcise this demon from their bodies if they were being visited by the night hag when sleeping. But they were dislocated. They were in America. They were suffering culture shock, and they didn't have their shaman to hand. And the conclusion was that these men were scaring themselves to death. But even that, a mystery hangs over that. How could so many of all the men that were relocated, only one survived? I mean, that is extraordinary. And the thousands of men, well, thousands of families from this country were relocated to America, but only the ones from the Hmong culture were the ones where these men were dying, usually in their early 30s. And it was believed that it was this strong association with a belief in spirits and the fact that they didn't have the medicine man or medicine woman there to be able to help them through this. And it's one of the things that came out of the book time and time again is the mysterious power of consciousness, and that we simply know nothing about consciousness and the power of imagination. I also did a lot of research into placebo and the nocebo effect, which gets more and more mysterious and fantastical as you delve into the power that we have to be able to cure ourselves, to heal ourselves, the power that we have to also to do ourselves great harm.
David Bramwell in Brighton, I love the book. It is...
Thank you.
It's going to be popular with a lot of people who like just snippets of weirdness. Those stories that you might have heard something about, or you may not have heard anything about. The numbers stations, I haven't been able to find anything about them. I haven't been able to find a book about it, so it's nice to see that book through. But if you're the kind of person who just enjoys these random, odd stories, you're going to love The Mysterium. I did. It's by David Bramwell, who we're speaking to, and Joe Keeling. Thank you very much for doing this, and I wish you luck with the book.
Many thanks. It's been a joy.
Thank you. Take care. Right, David Bramwell there, the book called The Mysterium, Unexplained and Extraordinary Stories for a Post-Nessie Generation. I think. Coming next here on The Unexplained at Talk Radio, our good friend Dr. Nick Lister is here from astronomyforall.co.uk in the northwest of England tonight. He's been very kind to stay up. He's going to take some questions. If you have any about space, things that have been happening in and around space, David mentioned when we were talking about Tabby's star, this mysterious star that lightens and darkens in a way that it shouldn't. Maybe we'll talk about that. We'll talk about black holes. Anything you want to talk about, if you want to give us a call, 0344 499 1000. You can tweet, of course, at Talk Radio. Nick Lister here with space questions. Next, only here.
Talk Radio.
We got entertainment, and we're not afraid to use it. Talk Radio.
Hello, I'm Ian McKellen. I want you to join me in supporting Crisis this Christmas. Times are tough. While we are safe and warm inside, thousands of homeless people will be sleeping on the freezing streets. For just £26.08, you can reserve a place for someone at Crisis at Christmas. You'll give them food, clothes and safety, and the chance to move off the streets for good. So please go to crisis.org.uk and give £26.08 to bring someone in from the cold. Thank you.
Could your business benefit from cloud accounting? Sage Business Cloud. Get paid faster by issuing invoices on the move. Complete your VAT return in seconds. And link your bank account for a real-time picture of your business finances. See how Sage Business Cloud can benefit your business with a free 30-day trial of Sage Accounting. Visit sage.co.uk/free trial. Sage Business Cloud. Helping you manage everything from money to people. Be Sage. Build on.
Christmas. Made merrier with Sky Mobile. Unwrap a range of unmissable offers, like the Samsung Galaxy S8 with a Tab A7, for just £30 a month, with 500 megabytes of data. Plus, join Sky Mobile today and get a Sky Store voucher to watch our latest releases. Ring in a Christmas made merrier. Search Sky Mobile. Ends 28 December, 30-month interest-free loan and data plan required for handset, 12-month minimum term, 18+, includes handset only and pay-as-you-go calls and texts for non-Sky TV customers. Subject to status and credit check, tablet Wi-Fi only. Add to basket at checkout, skystore.com voucher. Terms apply.
What happens when you're working first thing in the morning and you find you don't have the right tool for the job? Answer, Screwfix. If you've got an early start or you're working late, don't worry. We're here 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. weekdays and early on weekends too. Screwfix, here when you need us. Christmas is nearly here, which means there's plenty of a little of this and an awful lot of. So whatever you're up to this season, just remember that the Christmas menu is waiting for you at McDonald's. From the new beef and cheese feast to the Terry's chocolate orange McFlurry, head to McDonald's for a little indulgence and a brief moment of. Ends 27th of December, served after 10:30 a.m, subject to availability, participating restaurants only.
Right, make a Christmas list. Mum and Dad love their cooking, so something foodie. My little nephew, something cuddly. Glam Auntie Lynn, something sparkly. And for me, all of the above.
Whatever makes Christmas, make it your own at Wilko, with a range of unique gifts at £5 and under, plus our huge range of toys. Find them in store and loads more you'll love at wilko.com. Wilko, let's make Christmas.
Subject to availability. Online delivery charges may apply.
The Unexplained with Howard Hughes on Talk Radio.
After midnight here, we're going to bring you some stories of near-death experiences, but unusual ones. You know, they're very common. A lot of people say that they have, and they've been ill, and they've been snatched back from the jaws of death, and they say they've experienced a mysterious life, or somebody has told them that it's not their time yet. and they have to come back. Yes, we'll be talking about those things, but we'll also be talking about the kind of near-death experiences, and there are many of them, where people have actually come back different, changed in many ways. Dr. Penny Sartori will be here, along with Kelly Walsh, who's put together a great book on these things, with a whole set of stories that I hadn't heard before, that have been intensively researched, and I think you're going to find interesting. That's from midnight. But right now we're going to talk about space with our old friend, Dr. Nick Lister from astronomyforall.co.uk. Nick, thank you for staying up, because I know that you've got to be at work tomorrow, so thank you for doing this.
Good evening to you. It's always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Now, David Bramwell, who wrote this book, The Mysteria of Joe Tudor, we were talking about a lot of mysterious and strange stuff that is not to do with space.
Okay.
But we talked about this thing, Tabby's Star, that comes up periodically on this show. Now,
right.
Tabby's Star is a star that is anomalous because it brightens and then dims. Now, I know that during this year there have been a couple of possible explanations for this, because people have claimed all sorts of things, like, as David said, that it might be in the process of being mined by another civilization. That's what causes it to dip in power and then get brighter. But what's the latest thinking about Tabby's Star?
Well, there are many things that make stars' brightnesses alter in astronomy. We call brightness magnitude, and there are many different things that make the magnitude of a star dip, go up, go down, regularly or irregularly. From an exciting perspective, you can say sometimes out there in space, it's one of the ways that we can find actually planets out there going around other stars. So we call these exoplanets. We can't actually see these planets with telescopes because they're so far away and they're so small compared to their parent star. But if there is a planet out there going around the star, and it's lined up in such a way such that it will pass in between that star and our line of sight as it orbits the star, then it will cause a dip in the star's light as it blocks a little bit of light. So that's often a great explanation for any star's light dip, from a very exciting perspective, of course, because it gives away the presence of planets out there around other stars, which is always exciting for many different reasons, of course, particularly revolving around ideas of life out there, Howard.
You know, it is something, it's an enigma, isn't it? Where exactly is it?
I believe you can see it. I mean, you'd need a telescope to see it for a star. I believe it's a southern constellation star. I believe it is in Carina, I believe. I'm not completely sure myself, but I think it's in Carina, the constellation. So you have difficulty seeing it from England, unfortunately.
Right. What about the supermoon? The supermoon, everybody got so excited about the supermoon as if we'd never seen a big, strange moon before, you know, big, clear moon before.
Yeah.
We had one, what was it, 2 weeks ago? We're going to have a couple more in January, aren't we?
Yeah, they are beautiful to look at, aren't they? And the supermoon is a fantastic sort of thing to talk about from my perspective, because I think anything that encourages us to look up at the night sky I think that's perfect, because I think people should do it more. It's such an overlooked, beautiful, natural wonder, the night sky for us. It's free to view, etc. So anything like that encourages to look at the sky, encourages us to look at the sky, I think is a wonderful thing. The supermoon itself, of course, the moon. I mean, the moon is in our night sky all year round. We get a chance to see it every month of the year, unlike some objects. So looking at the moon is fantastic anyway. Now, full moons, as we all know, they're nice and bright. They give off a lot of light, they reflect a lot of light from the sun, so a full moon is beautiful to look at as it is. But what actually happens with the supermoon is the moon, it kind of appears bigger in our sky. Now, there's debate, actually, about whether people can actually notice with the naked eye the difference in size when we have these supermoons, because the percentage increase in size is not huge. Some people say you can see it, some people say you can't. The reason we have it, the reason we call it a supermoon, is because